All right, man, peace. So now this is going to be part two of the Kyrie Irving interview with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman on First Take. Let's see what he has to say.
Our next guest, he knows no introduction if you're just joining us, Kyrie Irving in the house. So good to have you with us. And we'll pick up where we left off and stay with hoops. Max, I think you had a question you wanted to get in.
I do. We've been talking about you a lot, Kyrie, and I'm very glad you're here. No one questions your guts. You can see that from the way you play.
Kyrie snickered when Max Kellerman said that. Kyrie got a real beef with Max Kellerman. All right, you could tell Kyrie watches the show, as most athletes do. They like to watch these shows. They like to know what people think about them. They like to know what message is being propagated about them. These shows, they do have a lot of power in regards to how people perceive athletes. The messages that the media dispenses on athletes is very important to the overall perception of the athlete on social media in general and the mass media and, with their endorsements. So it is relevant. Just pay attention to the face that Kyrie makes when Max Kellerman says, "We've been talking about you." He even snickers a little bit.
And that includes
I think you had a question you wanted to get in.
I do. We've been talking about you a lot, Kyrie, and I'm very glad you're here. No one questions your guts. You can see that from the way you play, and that includes coming on First Take this morning and answering our questions because we don't toss softballs. You say perfecting your craft became important to you, and that's your prerogative. It's your life, it's your career, you make those decisions. But it does seem to me, I won't speak for anyone else, that in this case, that's putting perfecting your own craft ahead of the pursuit of championships, where it seems staying with LeBron gives you the best chance.
Well, once again, how could staying with LeBron give him the best chance of pursuing championships when Cleveland is not viewed as the best team? All right, now, he'd have a better point if it was Steph Curry demanding a trade from Golden State to Boston because he did not want to be in that environment where he had to share the spotlight with Kevin Durant. Then he would have a point. He'd say, Golden State has been to the finals the last 3 years. They've won 2 of the last 3 years, and they really should have won the year that they lost. Why are you leaving? Then you would have a point. Cleveland has not been the favorite the last 3 years in the finals. They won't be the favorite this year from ESPN's rankings. They're looked at as being the 6th best team in the NBA. So what is the basis for Max Kellerman's statements or his question?
So those two ideas are incongruous to me.
No, sir. No. They can only be incongruous if Cleveland is viewed as being the best team. They're not.
Now, you're answering cryptically a lot of the time and kind of generalities, and that makes me think that maybe there's something personal going on behind the scenes that you can't or don't want to talk about. And if that's the case, that is perfectly fair. You can say, guys, there's stuff behind the scenes that's none of your business, and I respect that. But if...
Okay, now, remember I told you that oftentimes as a so-called black man, when you don't conduct yourself as a cartoon character, when you're not transparent, when you don't give the liberal Caucasian what he wants, and oftentimes, oftentimes the so-called liberal black, because Kyrie, even though I call him a liberal black, he's kind of, Kyrie's kind of hard to put with that label. He may be a little bit more complex than that. Point being is this. Max Kellerman is getting very frustrated with Kyrie because Kyrie's not giving him what he wants, which is the control over the interview, the ability to dominate Kyrie Irving. Remember, once again, the liberal Caucasian has an infatuation with domineering so-called black people. He claims that Kyrie is answering the questions cryptically, meaning it in a way to kind of obfuscate or muddy, cloud the intent of the answer or the intent of the question, which is to get a certain answer. Kyrie is basically not giving him the answer that he wants, to make a long story short. Kyrie is not satisfying his curiosity as to why he would want to leave the god of American sports, and I put God in quotes with a little G, obviously, LeBron James. As you can see with Kyrie's face, he is annoyed right now. So now Max Kellerman is reaching. Basically, he's telling Kyrie, I don't believe you. You need more people. He's basically calling Kyrie a liar without saying it. And Kyrie is picking up on a lot of this. So let's see what he has to say.
But if you're saying that, fine. If you're not saying that, then I'd like to know what you have to say about the idea that perfecting your craft seems to be at this moment put ahead of the pursuit of championships.
And let me say quickly also, before Kyrie answers, ESPN released a ranking of teams coming into this season. Boston is ranked ahead of Cleveland. So once again, Max Kellerman's assertion that Kyrie is putting his own personal development as a player above winning championships, that is not consistent with the facts. That is not consistent with the perception of how this NBA season will turn out.
I'm sorry, Max. That absolutely made no sense to me in terms of perfect.
Look at Max Kellerman's eyes got big, like he just took a couple of prescription pills, to make his mind clearer. Which supposedly Max has a little problem with them pills, allegedly. I'm gonna rewind it back, and watch as Kyrie sons this dude.
Perfecting your craft.
And if that's the case, that is perfectly fair. You can say, guys, there's stuff behind the scenes that's none of your business, and I respect that. But if you're saying that, fine. If you're not saying that, then I'd like to know what you have to say about the idea that perfecting your craft seems to be at this moment put ahead of the pursuit of championships.
I'm sorry, Max. That absolutely made no sense to me in terms of perfecting your craft, like in pursuit of championships, because it all goes in one as a professional athlete. Absolutely.
The point of you perfecting your craft is to win championships. The problem is that Max Kellerman has already cast Kyrie, and with some reason, as as just purely a weapon in his role in Cleveland. I agree with Max. Kyrie is basically just a weapon, but that goes along with why Kyrie wants to leave Cleveland and go to Boston, to show everything that he can do to win a championship. And this is why the media is so funny. You can't win with them. When you want to go team up with other great players, you're running from the responsibility of leading a team. When you want to go lead your own team, you're selfish for leaving a winning situation. A lot of these guys, they can't win for trying. But as Kyrie has stated, Max's statements, his question just makes no sense. The point of you improving as a player is to win. That's the point.
And as a professional, anything that you're doing, I think that when you name the perfecting your craft, isn't it to be at the top of your game? Is that not the goal? Is that not the goal to ultimately perfect your craft?
But then your argument,
bring yourself to be better with the collective of the group. That's what I'm saying. In the terms of
then it seems you're also saying you have a better chance to that in perfecting your craft with another group, it also gives you a better chance to win a championship than staying in Cleveland this year with LeBron.
Wait, rephrase that one more time. I feel like there's a simpler way that you can ask that question.
In other words, Kyrie's saying, you're trying to sound smart for no reason. Just ask a basic question. Look at Kellerman's face. Kellerman's face, his eyes are so wide right now. His face is getting flush. Like he's like, I can't believe this nigger is talking to me like this on national TV. After all the signs I've held marching in protest for these niggers, how could he talk to me like this? Kyrie's basically saying, look, man, just ask a straightforward question. Stop beating around the bush and stop trying to elongate these questions to make yourself sound smart.
Okay, let's see. You might be right about that. If in perfecting your craft, you have to leave Cleveland, then it seems to me you're also saying that you have a better chance to win a championship by doing that, leaving Cleveland, than you do staying with LeBron this year. In other words, you're saying, hey, perfecting your craft is in the service of winning championships, and that's part of self-fulfillment. Fine, then you're saying you got a better chance to do that in Boston than you would have had in Cleveland.
I'm saying that the overall attention to one player in a collective is, as Stephen A would say, is blasphemy. Like, to think about individually picking out two people, which everyone has chosen to do, in terms of what I feel like I deem best in terms of perfecting my craft and going after a championship with a group, meaning that because I wanted to change the environment does not mean that it stops the pursuit in terms of what I want to accomplish as a player.
What Kyrie's basically saying is that Cleveland their system was too dependent on LeBron and him to do everything. He wants to go to a team where not only can he lead the team, but the concept behind what they do offensively is predicated on getting everyone involved. All right, there's nothing like a system where everyone is made to get involved, but you also have great talent. What Kyrie's saying is that the offensive scheme of the Cleveland Cavaliers was too one-dimensional. It was just about him and LeBron going one-on-one, which is what I stated before the finals, which is why I stated before the finals that they would have no chance to beat Golden State because they had no understanding on how to actually run plays on offense. That's what Kyrie is saying. That's why he's saying, this is why I'm leaving, Max. You don't know anything about basketball. You're just talking. You're trying to front like you do. See, Max looks at the so-called black man, and I've stated this before in regards to Max and Skip Bayless. They look at black males as superhuman. They do. They won't say that out loud or on camera, but when they view the so-called black man, they view him as a superman. Okay? I mentioned that before. This is why during slavery, oftentimes, they would use so-called blacks, both men and women, in medical experiments, and they would not give them anesthesia. The belief was that their pain tolerance, so-called black people's pain tolerance, was higher than the average person's, that they were naturally stronger, faster than the average person. That's why they would not allow so-called blacks to read during a certain portion in American history in the early 1800s. Because the understanding was that the so-called black had greater potential to excel as a superhuman. And if they were allowed to empower themselves with information, that it will quickly lead to the dissolution of Caucasian dominance in America. All right, I say all that to say this. Max Kellerman, when he watches a basketball game, all he sees is a bunch of, for lack of a better term, niggers with superior bodies, superior coordination, reflexes. He does not understand the science of the game. So he can never understand what Kyrie is saying. That's the gulf there. The gulf and the separation is as blatant as that orange line that's on the screen that's separating Kyrie and Max. That Max cannot traverse that line. He cannot get across that line to understand what Kyrie's talking about. He's trying to sound informed, but he doesn't. To make a long story short, Kyrie wants to go to a place where he can be coached up, where the team is coached up, and where, everything is just not about him going one-on-one.
It doesn't mean that I didn't want to play with LeBron anymore. It means that I wanted to leave that environment that I was in currently, and felt like, as energy draining as it was and how it would take me for a loop in a roller coaster ride and a lot of the false reality that is created by a lot of different outlets, it all came crashing down at one point after we lost the last finals. All I wanted to do was continue to figure out myself. And once I did that, I was able to step up and make the decision.
Let me get in here because I got a
last
few...
thing, Stephen. I got one last thing.
Go ahead.
It's Kyrie.
Look, Stephen A is getting annoyed with Max. He said, okay, Max, go ahead. Because he sees that Max's line of questioning is not going anywhere. He understands that Max is not going to be able to get out of Kyrie what he wants to get out of Kyrie. That's why Kyrie has that smile on his face. Because he sees that Max is frustrated. He sees that Max had a goal and an intention to expose Kyrie as a me-first person. Kyrie already sniffed it out. And Kyrie basically has, he's basically hit Max with his own medicine. He's used a lot of convoluted answers to respond to Max's convoluted questions.
Kyrie, is there something personal going on that's none of our business that you simply don't want to talk about behind the scenes?
Well, if it's none of your business, why the hell would you ask him that question? Why would you expect an answer to a question of, is there something going on that's none of our business? No, it's none of your fucking business. You just answered your own question.
With LeBron.
Can I ask you a question, Max? Why does it
Sure.
continuously have to be about one player? Do you realize that I play with 13 other guys on the team?
Is there something personal with anyone else on the team? Because if it is, then it's like, hey, listen, this guy's saying there's stuff behind the scenes that's none of your business. I accept that.
See, Max is just incredulous to the fact that anybody would want to not play with LeBron James. The media, and I've mentioned this before, the basketball media has created this narrative that everybody in the NBA wants to play with LeBron. Everybody just wants to play with LeBron. Every great player wants to come play with LeBron. In LeBron's history, once again, when you look at all the star players that have played with LeBron, you have Dwayne Wade, you have Chris Bosh, you have Ray Allen, you have Kyrie Irving, and you have Kevin Love. Those are the guys who are considered great players that he played with. Dwayne Wade was his homeboy. Chris Bosh was a guy who I think made the playoffs one time, or maybe he hadn't even made the playoffs with Toronto when he came to Miami. I think he made it one time and went out in the first round. He was desperate just to sniff victories. And I believe that they were 27 when they came together, 26, 27 when they came together. Kevin Love, they executed a trade. And Kyrie was already in Cleveland and did not even want LeBron to come back. Ray Allen was about 37 years old when he signed with Miami. He was on his last legs. He was just desperate to sniff a finals again. This narrative that all these great players want to run and play with LeBron, that shit is totally false. All right? Chris Paul and Carmelo Anthony had numerous opportunities to play with LeBron. They turned it down. All right? Now as they've gotten older, they have rethought it and they've tried to a degree to get to LeBron, but they haven't. Neither one of them have put forth 100% effort to play with him. And no other stars have really pushed that button. So, I mean, it's just bullshit.
No, I care. I care about my life.
I'm going someplace with this.
Yeah,
So stay with.
I think I'm missing him.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, we here. I got it. I get it. First of all, let me ask this one last question about LeBron in this respect. Do you believe you can win without him? I know it seems ridiculous, but I'm gonna ask it for the record. Do you believe you can win without LeBron James?
Time will tell.
I ask you what you believe.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I feel like in the journey that I'm going to be taking the next steps on with the team that we have, in the direction of being with a cultured franchise such as Boston, which I can honestly say I'm very fortunate and very appreciative that it worked out that way, because in the trade request, I really took a leap of faith with myself. And
that's the most important thing in life. Once you find that courage to take that leap of faith, with a vision, of course, you're going to be much happier with your life. All right? A lot of so-called black men out there are very depressed and mentally, spiritually very downtrodden because they've allowed themselves to get stuck in a rut of that proverbial hamster wheel in this society where you just have a secure job, or you're just, you're just here existing. You're not even living, you're just existing. Once you find that vision for yourself, what you want to do, whatever your talent is, you hone it, you perfect it, you try to monetize it, you'll be much, much happier with your life. All right? And that's the reason why a lot of black men are so, I don't want us to simplify it by saying depressed. There's a better term for it. Maybe just confounded. The reason why a lot of brothers are confounded a lot of times about life is because they haven't done their due diligence in finding out what truly makes them happy and trying to optimize that. Because there are opportunities out here for you to do that on your own if that's what you want. All right? We can't always keep looking to the so-called Caucasian to give equality, give this, give that. That's a trap that is set up by the so-called Caucasian liberal to ensnare the black liberal and bring everybody else along. That shit is never going to work. It's time for, brothers to stand up on their own 2 feet and say to themselves, you know what? I'm going to leave the hoes alone for a minute. I'm going to leave the weed alone. I'm going to leave the alcohol alone. I'm going to get a chalkboard, write down everything that I want to do, and I'm going to go about starting to do it.
Regardless of the situation, that belief and confidence that I have in myself was going to remain the same regardless of wherever I went.
Now, you do understand. I mean, I know you a little bit. I know a brother very, very well. Your demeanor is very, very similar. You've got an assassin's mentality. He likes to call it the Mamba mentality. His name would be Kobe Bryant, who obviously speaks to a lot of players in this league. Highly intellectual individual, very measured and assassin-like in his approach.
And that's why I said that Kobe is the one who told Kyrie to demand a trade, or told him that that's what he should consider doing. I'm not saying that the trade was not Kyrie's brainchild. Maybe it was. But I'm sure that he's had conversations with Kobe, and Kobe at least laid out to him that, look, this is what LeBron is going to do because this is what he's done. We know that when LeBron believes that the ship is starting to sink, that he will get off the ship first, as all rats do. Okay? Bottom line. I'm not trying to insult LeBron. I'm just saying, if you do what a rat does, then hey, it is what it is. He showed that with the Cavaliers the first time. He showed that with Miami. He's showing that with Cleveland again. He wants to get off the ship first and leave everybody else behind. And if you're Kyrie, you're at a place with a coaching staff that's not imaginative. You're with an owner that is oftentimes disingenuous. And, it's time for you to go explore. It's time for you to find out what you can do. And I believe, I've said this already, I haven't heard this just to qualify it, but I believe that Kyrie told him that if you don't trade me to a certain, to a certain place, a franchise that I feel like I can be competitive, I'm just going to retire. And you guys could deal with the aftermath, the backwash per se. You can deal with that. Because remember, Kyrie not only has his contract money, he also has his Nike money. Kyrie is not the type of guy, at least he doesn't come off to me as a type of guy who doesn't have much money left. So.
How much, if at all, did you communicate with Kobe before you made this decision?
Well, first off, I think it's a little unfair to bring a retired player into all this, as well as.
No, I'm just talking about it.
No, I get it. I'm just saying because because I honestly, personally, I felt a little uneasy when it was made into a story about how much of his influence has been on my life. Like,
okay,
I have an unbelievable mentorship, friendship with him, but the decision was solely on me.
That's right. Look, man. I already told a lot of you brothers what Kyrie's psychological profile was for the most part. Of course, I don't know him. I don't know him at all. Only thing I can go by is what he's displayed on television. And from what he displayed to me, he is an independent thinker. He is somebody who is goal-oriented. He's somebody who is most likely for lack of a better term, a loner, what people may call a recluse, because he has his own thoughts. When you have your own independent thoughts, you know that most people in this society, and just most societies in general, they have a hive mentality. So, it can be a little bit stressful sometimes to entrust your thoughts with people who have a hive mentality, because they're just not going to get it. So you get used to being, considered a recluse by being by yourself. That's one of the main reasons why people like that have no problem going from one environment to the other, because they don't really set their roots any place, because they don't really count on developing these deep relations or relationships or rapport with the people that they just happen to work with or just be around. It takes a special type of spirit to bond with somebody like that.
And to see a journeyman like himself and to take a leap of faith, obviously there was some inspiration and some knowledge that I had to garner throughout time over the course of the last season and coming into this season. So I had to do a lot of research before I had to make the decision to make sure that I had everything in order personally. So obviously when you have a mentor like that, and obviously I have my dad, I have my strength and conditioning coach, Robin Pound.
See, the first person he mentioned was his dad. All right, very, very, very important. That line has to be passed down, and a dad is just not, it's just not a three-letter word. It's obviously somebody who has a certain level of wisdom that he can impart onto his son. That's why it's important. All the experiences that we go through in life, good and bad, we have to log those experiences down so that those things can be passed on, so that people don't make the same mistakes that we made, I made, you made, this person made, that person made. So that brothers could see certain things transpiring before they happen. They say, oh man, my dad told me about this, I gotta watch out. Or this brother told me about that, I gotta watch out. Or shit, I heard this on Chronicles channel, I better watch out. This is why it's important. That's why the scriptures tell you, buy the truth and sell it not. All right? You buy the truth and you sell it not. You don't make people pay for the truth. All right, especially when it's your own people. You have to, dispense it freely so that people don't make the same mistake. It's not about getting credit, I don't worry about that. I'm sure people watch my videos and, they hear certain things that I say and they act like they said it. to somebody else, you know, and the other person say, "Oh man, that's you know, I like that," you know, and the person act like they said it. I don't care if it's something that helped you in your daily goings. Great, you know, that's cool. The Most High, the angels, they watch, they record, they write things down. Whoever you've touched in your life, whoever you've helped improve this or there, they note it down and they write it down, and the books will be open on the day of judgment. That's all that matters. Worldly credit is not relevant, believe me.
My best friends, and when you're considering all this, basketball seems to get lost in all that because it becomes what you're trying to accomplish as a man, and now you influence basketball, and that's where I sought out Kobe, because that understanding of basketball from a mental aspect and what you have to prepare yourself for, I felt like he was best to go to.
In fairness to you, just for the record, Kobe would say the exact same thing. That's how he is. He ain't trying to give personal advice. He talks to you about basketball, etc., etc. That's your decision.
And also, please understand, Kyrie is a major fan of Kobe. It wasn't just happenstance that he went there. He's always been a big fan of Kobe. I remember when they first got together. I think it was at the 2012 Olympics. I think that Kyrie was there as he was on the scout team or the practice squad against the 2012 Olympians, and he challenged Kobe to a one-on-one. And you know, that's the first time I saw him and Kobe interact. And Kobe, you know, Kobe liked him a lot because he saw that the kid wasn't scared.
People that's associated with your daddy always talk about you make your own decisions.
Yeah,
your father,
my dad.
I'm sorry, I said dad. Your dad.
You see what Kyrie did there? He checked him real quick. You know, that's how you know that Kyrie has a proper perspective on most of his relationships. He said, "That's my dad." You know, daddy is what a little kid calls his father. Dad is what a grown man calls his father. So Kyrie's letting you know I'm a grown ass man.
Dad, your dad. I said dad, he said dad, I got it. But they all...
And Molly liked that too. Molly liked when he did that. Because a lot of times Stephen A. emasculates himself talking about he was raised by his mama and his sisters and all that other shit. And I've heard Molly say numerous times, "While I was raised in a home where the man led the home." Stephen A. does not understand what she means, but she says that a lot of black men love to emasculate themselves on TV to show veneration to the woman. Once again, brothers, the woman is not, they don't respect that. They may overtly respect it, act like they respect it, but inside they're like, look at this weak ass dude.
All talk about Kyrie's his own man, he makes his own decisions. But one of the things that I did report, because I know what was told to me, was that when you spoke to management and you basically said that you wanted out, that it was interpreted as a slight towards not the rest of your teammates, because you got a whole bunch of guys in Cleveland that are not happy you're going. They're not happy. They love themselves, Kyrie Irving. They loved you as their teammate. They don't like the fact that you're going to be wearing...
And I love them guys. And I love all those guys.
That's right. That's what they feel. But what they're saying is, I reported that LeBron was so ticked off because his name, not because you made a decision for your own future, but because his name was in the mix, that, you know, he would be tempted, he'd be tempted to do something, not that he never would. I reported that. Did you hear about that at all? What was your reaction when you heard about it?
Well,
please. LeBron wasn't tempted to do shit, but what he'd normally do was just talk shit. All right? Kyrie had a look on his face like, hey, well, if he would have made that move, then he would have had to prepare for the repercussions. Because, he wouldn't have just had to knock me out. It would have been worse than that. You know, whenever you see a dude respond real calm to threats, that's the dude that, you know, okay, you know, when it happens, it happens. Talk is just talk. At the end of the day, for LeBron to say something like that and for that to get out, LeBron should have went to whatever team member allowed that to come out and thoroughly reprimanded him, because that made LeBron look weak for that to come out that he would have been tempted to put hands on Kyrie. Like, really? You 6'9", 265, and you talking about putting hands on a guy because he demanded a trade? The fuck out of here.
Well, I feel like the timing was impeccable, if you ask me. I think that how ironic it was that I was on my China trip and how my trade request all of a sudden just came out publicly. And it was hurtful because I knew how professional I had kept it throughout the whole entire process.
You kept it very private.
And how strategic it was, because I knew that it was going to be madness, and it turned out to be like that. And
You see what Kyrie said there? Basically, he said it was interesting that, all of this rhetoric came out while he was away on his China trip. In other words, LeBron wasn't really serious. If he did say that, or if he did elicit that sentiment, he wasn't serious about laying hands on me, because if he really meant that, he would have said that while I was here in the United States. That's number one. Number two, you make the request for the trade 2 or 3 weeks before you leave to China, and all of a sudden it comes out while you're away. So it's clear that it wasn't really LeBron who was upset that his name was quote unquote in the mix. LeBron was upset that Kyrie demanded the trade and was going to leave before LeBron had a chance to leave him. And you also see Kyrie mention about all the confusion that he knew would ensue, all the chaos. Kyrie seems to be somebody who understands the importance of having balance and eliminating chaos from your life. Having order is what I tell brothers about all the time, man. That's why brothers are always dying at 55 years old. You brothers allow all this confusion into your life, man. All these wild, stupid ass, crazy ass situations, all these wild ass women, negative ass women. Let me tell you something, man. I was outside the other day, and I know all y'all cats done ran into this. Some dude outside out on the phone yelling and carrying on with his woman for I don't know how long. This dude was just rah, rah, rah. Oh, and the man actually threatened to shoot the broad. Oh, I called you expecting it to be a peaceful conversation, but now you being mad disrespectful. I got my gat. I'll handle a bitch. I'm like, listen to this motherfucker. When it gets to that point, brothers, you should have been left abroad a long time ago. All right? You letting abroad drag you to the point where you are embarrassing yourself out in public, talking about how you gonna shoot her out in public on the phone. She done took your manhood a long time ago.
And when you're living in a reality base, and I'm a very awake individual, and you have all these exterior forces trying to change or skew everyone else's opinion.
I told you, brothers, when people see that that you're not a two-dimensional person, a two-dimensional character, I should say, they're going to try to imbue their thoughts, or what they would like you to say your thoughts were, onto you. All right, because they can't control your thoughts. They're going to put out thoughts. They're going to dispense thoughts that allegedly are yours to make you look bad. All right. They do that to intelligent so-called black men who are not submissive all the time.